Hi, lovelies. Lisa here from Mindful Tarot. Today I wanted to offer something like a video response to a recent posting from Ania at Tarot by Ania. Um, and Ania is, in her post, I'll put the link below, she's talking about a phenomenon that she sort of jokingly, I think, talks about in terms of tarot addiction. Uh, she talks about how in her own life for years she had something like 8 decks, and that was enough, and that was fine, and that was lovely, and she had enough variety, and she was really working with each of those decks very intimately. They filled all of her needs, and then subsequently, recently, she's noticed this great expansion of her collection, and now she has all these decks with which she doesn't work, and she's sort of making the declaration in this video that she's going to really slow down her consumption, and only 3 new decks this year, 2 of which she's already planned, and one that sort of leaving herself just one space to be seduced and lured into the universe of a new deck. So she's really slowing down her consumption, going on a tarot diet, basically. And I can relate with what Anya is talking about. I think, we all probably can to some extent. This sense that enough is never really enough these days. This kind of constant desire to acquire more gadgets. In my own world, I've definitely noticed the ways in which my link to social media, it completely ties into this impulse to have this and have that and have, basically inspiring tarot lust, the internet, the inner tubes, land plenty, land of beauty and glory and anything, right? We live in this incredible Amazon Prime universe where, we're tempted to think that we can have our heart's desire instantaneously, the world of instant gratification, and also the world of enormous horizons of meaning. So we see a whole universe. I just think about, when I first got into tarot, sorry, my cell phone. When I first got into tarot, I'm going to pause this. I'm back. Sorry about that. When I first got into tarot, back, I want to say how long ago that was. I would go to my local bookstore. There were 4 decks for sale, or whatever it was, and I would have to buy them and then play with them and decide whether I wanted to keep them. There was, I think, one bookstore that had them all spread out, but it just, you never knew. And now I just go to YouTube. Anyway, we all know what the world is like now. It's this world of huge proliferation of options. Now, from a Buddhist perspective, the world hasn't really changed in its fundamental nature. The quandary that we're still grappling with, whether it's now or it's the 90s or whatever, the 80s, the quandary that we're still grappling with is the quandary of being mortal and living in a world where it's hardwired in every living creature to want more of the good stuff and want to get rid of the bad stuff, and to constantly be trying to fill the holes, fill the voids in our world, constantly trying to smooth out the corners, to round out the edges, to have everything just perfect, just right. And that quality of getting everything just right, it's always around the next corner, right? Things are never just right. The moment that they're just right, we start to worry that everything's going to just change. And so we're constantly in motion seeking this phantom of perfection. But we're mortal beings, and perfection is not what it means to be mortal. And thank God that perfection is not what it means to be mortal, because if we actually were perfect, we wouldn't fall in love, we wouldn't have friendships, we wouldn't have connections, we wouldn't even live in a world of meaning. We would be completely self-contained, total, absolute beings. We would live in a very cold and sterile place where nothing moves and nothing changes. So thank God we live in a world where we always want more, because that's the condition that makes it possible for us to connect with each other and with our universes. But now, how do we navigate that? So, how do we navigate that without continually buying more and more tarot decks and getting more and more stuff and just giving into our own inclinations to consume? How do we live a balanced life amid a world where enough is never enough and where it's so easy to scratch our consumer itch? The other thing about when, I was first getting into tarot, I mean, there was just a handful of decks available. Now, thousands upon thousands, right? So I just had a birthday. Of course, the only thing I wanted was tarot, and I got 3 new decks, and that was on the heels of having myself purchased a couple of decks last month. So I have like 5 new decks to explore. Now, I can't explore deeply 5 new decks in any depth in a small amount of time. So is this a problem? That's my question. Is this a problem? Right now, it doesn't feel to me that this is a problem. It feels to me instead as if I live in a world of complete abundance and plenty, a world of magic and mystery. So, I have my, this is one of the decks I bought for myself, thanks to Cheimonette Tarot, who's again, this is all so tied to social media. So she had this display of the nature spirit tarot on her Instagram feed one day, and I fell in love with the images, and I texted her and I said, "Is it a great deck?" And she's already, DM'd her or whatever. And she said, "Yes, it's really a very beautiful deck." And so, thanks to the internet, I was able to see the deck. Thanks to the internet, I was able to ask about the deck, and thanks to the internet, I was able to buy the deck, all in the course of like 2 days. So now I have this deck. Right? I have it in a lovely bag, a bag by Marjorie at Spectrum Studios, a shop I found out about on Etsy. Again, able to buy whatever I want with not even that expensive, right? This stuff is also within reach, more or less, if you're frugal and you plan and you budget. So is this a problem? I haven't explored this deck yet. It sits on my study table. I have other decks that I'm working with on my altars. Is this a problem? So right now for me, it doesn't feel like it's a problem. I have my relationship to Cheimonette, okay, we'll just call it Cheimonette, the Cheimonette Tarot. I think it's Cheimonette, by the way, but I'm not going to say it like that. And sometimes I do Cheimonette. Okay, the Cheimonette Tarot, Eden Gallanter's beautiful deck. I'm doing, finishing up this challenge this month, and I am exploring this deck deeply. But at the same time, my world is filled with, the Nature Spirit deck, the Bohemian Gothic that I was able to get my very first Baba Studios deck. Again, another pouch for Marjorie. That's not the lover's card I like the most. But anyway, this beautiful deck, it's sitting, I've taken it out of its plastic wrapper, but it's just sitting on my study table right now. Is this a problem? I don't think so. Not yet. Not any more than being alive is a problem. Dealing with my own grasping and my own aversion, that's the core of my spiritual practice. My addiction to the 78 cards is just another part of that. So I watch it. It becomes something I pay attention to. And in the meantime, I also pay attention to the ways in which my world feels full of meaning. A meaning that I can activate, a meaning that I can dive into. So now I dive into this deck. The other decks are waiting for me. And knowing that they're waiting there feels comforting and good. But I keep having to check in with my own sort of confronting my mortality, I think. So with that in mind, I'm going to do, today's reading for the Little Storm Challenge. And today it's the day 26th. What must be healed the King of Cups. Is that right? Is it the 26th? Yes. What must be healed? The King of Cups. Okay, so diving in. What must be healed? There's a lot. The first card, the Four of Cups. Yeah. The Nine of Cups. And the Wheel. So, the Four of Cups seems to me a really interesting card given what we're just talking about. And this question of what it means to feel like there's never enough, even though, you know, the universe is handing it all to me. So where does the sense of longing and emptiness come from, and can I ever get rid of it? The cups, you know, cups, they're always, especially in Eden Gallanter's deck in all sorts of powerful ways, they're always spilling out and spilling over and being dumped out. I mean, they're containers, but they're, by their very nature, they empty, they get full. This is what it is to have a human life, a life that empties and fills all the time and is never going to be without that movement. And thank God that it's not without that movement. That movement is the movement of love. That movement is the movement of the heart. It's the movement of connection. And so the Nine of Cups, and I didn't plan this, folks, but the cards are here with me right now, the Nine of Cups, right? So what does it mean to find contentment in this world, right? In this world where we're constantly feeling that kind of emptiness of feeling like even when we have what we want, we don't have what we want because we never have it all forever. Life is full of change. So how do we achieve this contentment? These two cards already suggesting my sense of what must be healed in me and all of us, which is the suffering that comes from living in a world that's by definition a world where we grapple with change and imperfection and hence incompleteness. This is the world that the wheel points to, the world where everything changes. So, again, without planning this, and maybe this is just always how the cards work, what must be healed? Our ability to live in a world of change, right? To live in a world of gain and loss, of up and down, of rising and falling. This is the world that we try to avoid every time we get that little dopamine urge or surge from, you know, the new purchase, the new gadget, the new friendship, the whatever, the thing that we're filling the hole with, and then that sort of sadness, that Four of Cups, like world weariness, right? Right. This is what we're always looking for, this contentment. But that sense of contentment, for it really to last, for it really to sink in, we have to recognize the reality of this wheel of life. What goes around comes around. What goes up falls down. That's what it is to be alive. Okay. Yeah, I hope that all hung together as a kind of thing. Anyway, nice chatting with you today. Much love. Bye.